Hello and welcome to the hard sell, where the stick in the swill-bucket rattles back. You probably won't have escaped your notice that a couple of months ago was the 40th anniversary of Channel 4. Not least because I made a whole documentary about it, as did my colleague Random Me. Well, thanks for noticing. Anyway, one thing neither of us had time to concentrate on was the sheer oddity of the first year or so of that new TV station, especially when it came to the advertising. So let's take a look now with a Have a Break.
Have a break.
The earliest complete break I could find from Channel 4 comes from the 7th of November, a mere 5 days into the station's existence, during a showing of the original Howard Hawks Scarface from 1932. Fascinatingly early in Channel 4's life, if you find such things fascinating. And if you don't, you're not hiding to nothing watching this programme, let me tell you. I know how to grow an audience, me. Fuck your praxis. Anyway, to whoever is in fact still watching, the thing about advertising on Channel 4 at this early stage is that it came with issues that quite often blacked out the commercial breaks altogether. First is the fact that Channel 4 didn't sell its own advertising space. The local ITV stations did. Not all of them could afford it on top of their own. The adverts we're about to look at come from the London region, LWT specifically, as it was a Sunday, so no worries there. The other unavoidable thing was the ongoing dispute between Equity and the Institute of Practitioners in Advertising. The IPA were trying to weasel lower repeat fees for the actors in adverts shown on the new station on the basis that it was a minority channel, and would therefore get fewer eyes. Equity called this penny-pinching bollocks, and effectively went on strike as far as Channel 4 was concerned, and later TVAM as well, because the dispute dragged on for months. As a result, for the first year or so of Channel 4's life, the adverts were scarce and strangely off-putting when they were there, as we're about to demonstrate.
A lusty knave was in the stocks. Forsooth, he was a wily fox.
So with Equity refusing to play ball, and literally every actor in the country a member, it was still a closed shop in those days, there weren't many adverts on the early 4 featuring actual actors doing actual acting. There are ways around this, of course. Voiceovers, for instance, were apparently an entirely different issue, and 1982 was still the heyday of traditional animation, and Richard Williams Studios of London in particular. If you see an animated advert from this era, there's at least a 95% chance it was either made at Williams' studios or by an alumnus thereof. This is the latter, a Richard Purdom joint.
When he was struck by this idea, he'd wangle himself a pint of beer, full of body, hops and malt, a flavour 'twould be hard to fault.
He'd been design supervisor on Williams' A Christmas Carol in 1971. 10 years later, he had his own studio making adverts like this. By the mid-90s, he was working on the likes of Space Jam and Disney's Hercules, along with several other Williams alumni. You can see the influence in the smooth but detailed and expressive character work.
And served a mere stone's throw away, the ale was Green King IPA.
This is a slightly more realistic treatment of the stocks than we're used to in popular culture, in that the imagery is generally limited to rotten tomatoes, whereas here they're hurling cabbages, and rocks, and horseshoes, which is more like reality. Not much more. There's no one pissing in his face or experimenting with his arse or anything, which is the kind of thing that genuinely did happen in the Middle Ages. These days some people pay for that sort of thing on OnlyFans and the like. Back then they got it for free. And we think we've advanced. Anyway.
So he began to try his luck with the serving wench of the Sitting Duck. But all she did was raise a titter and left the poor knave feeling bitter. A great pint's never far away when you're near Green King IPA.
One has to wonder what he was expecting. It's a pretty weird, dark premise for a beer advert altogether, really.
A great pint's never far away when you're near Green King IPA.
Michael Hordern on vocals there, and indeed here.
There are those who use inferior video cassettes. But then there are those who have seen the light.
Not only that, it's more animation. And this time it's the master himself, Richard Williams, in his role as pinch hitter on the Pink Panther, for those occasions when to pay Freeling themselves were too expensive. I have showed this advert before, oddly enough in the Hamlet episode, because that's one of the guises the puce feline takes on, at least in the full version.
Alas, poor Yorick. Never used Super Avalon videotape from TDK.
See?
And will settle for nothing less than Super Avalon. With its brilliant colour, definition, and stunning reality from TDK.
The whole thing has little or nothing to do with the product it's selling, but it's a familiar character and setup. And sometimes that's all you need.
The great name in tape cassettes.
Sadly, Horden isn't on all of these, but the basic pattern continues. No live-action humans whatsoever. The coast of Rattlin? Is there a noun that guy didn't lay claim to?
Just inland from Perpignan, fringed by the mountains of the Pyrenees, is Roussillon.
Enjoy a Norfolk accent. Well, we don't hear them very often on television or radio, even nowadays, when BBC One announcers talk like Rita Fairclough. And there's probably a reason.
The region of a dark and rich red wine. And from the green rolling abundance of the Dordogne, we get Bergerac Blanc. But this is the area at the heart of the great French wine regions, Norwich.
And now, from Norwich. Yes, more or less the only place to hear such a brogue is on an advert for Colemans of Norwich, as normal humans pronounce it. Now, you might be sitting there in abject confusion, wondering what all this talk of wine is about, given that Colemans are famous for the original and best English mustard. And it's true, they are. And that sort of thing is all they do these days, albeit only as a brand name of Unilever, and not even in Norwich anymore. But back in the day, there were also a famous and respected wine merchant, if not a particularly high-class one. They still claim credit for shipping the stuff in boxes with little screw-off spouts for pouring, which gives you a clue as to the quality of the product. Still, this is 1982. Britain is still developing a taste for the stuff. We don't necessarily know any better yet. And they did sell good stuff in actual bottles as well, as you can see here.
Here you'll find some of the finest wines, not just of France, but from wherever wine is made.
Norwich, rapidly becoming one of the world's great wine regions.
Some of their more real premium products may even have used corks.
That's right, boy.
Inspired by nature.
Looks more inspired by contemporary dance to me. Shine a torch on some silhouettes. That'll look like it means something. No, I don't know what. That's not my problem. The critics will tell you what it means after the previews.
Alberto bring you new Alberto jojoba, with the legendary secret of the jojoba nut.
Good old Alberto. Don't know who he was, some chemist in LA apparently. But he certainly made a name for himself in shampoos and conditioners and avant-garde electronic jazz. Here's a very of-its-time little conceptual dance video art thing to promote something with nuts in.
Its precious extract is nature's own rich moisturizer. Alberto jojoba enhances nature's beauty in your hair with a whole new range of shampoos and conditioners.
At least we actually get to see some real-life human beings for the first time in this break. Because she's a model rather than an actor, and very probably American as well, so either way, not in equity. And she doesn't even say anything either. Go nuts. No pun intended.
Softer, shinier, lovelier hair can be yours with new Alberto jojoba. Beautiful hair, in a nutshell.
Maybe your mother never told you. There's more to being a woman than minding your manners. I'm Jacqueline Smith.
And again, I'm not in equity, because I'm American. So I can walk, talk, and do all sorts of other things without the IPA having to worry about any legal repercussions.
And being a woman means sometimes taking the first step first. There's a new fragrance that understands. A Pre.
Credit where it's due, Jacqueline Smith was always the most actually beautiful angel, although there's much to be said for Kate Jackson's big brown eyes. That perm's not doing much for her, though, and neither's whoever slathered all that rouge on her cheeks. I don't know, I'm not gay enough for this line of thinking. What about this fragrance?
A Pri is a little unsettling, a little disturbing.
Wait, what?
A Pri is a little unsettling, a little disturbing.
What does it smell of rotting flesh or something? Is it formulated with the tears of orphans? What kind of selling point is that for a perfume?
A Pri is a little unsettling, a little disturbing. A Pri is a most provocative fragrance. If Mama never told you, I'll tell you. Part of the art of being a woman is knowing when not to be too much of a lady.
Well, that explained nothing, thanks. Basically, it's the old problem of the sense of smell being impossible to articulate properly in words. So trying to describe it, we end up not saying anything at all in particular. The bit about the smell being unsettling and disturbing threw me, though.
A Pri by Max Factor.
If you think you can't afford high-performance stereo...
You're probably right. It's 1982, it sucks for everyone. Give it a couple of years, the whole of society turns into a get-rich scheme. Just make sure you get out before the bubble bursts. As for why this is set in a darkened glass corridor in a blue and purple datascape with a pointless window, a pink moon and a single raven, don't ask. Again, it's 1982. This is just what cool looks like at this point in time.
Listen to the Fidelity IS systems. Cassette unit.
I'm a love, I'm a love, I'm a love, heartless.
Oh yes, we had one of these when I was very, very small indeed. Fell on me once. We never had a pair of magic virtual reality speakers though. Probably couldn't afford those.
3-band stereo tuner.
Have not saints lips, and holy palmers too.
Aye, pilgrim, lips that they must use in prayer.
And belt drive record deck.
Once again, note a bare minimum of visible humans, mostly stock musicians. And for the bit representing spoken word, they've gone with Romeo and Juliet, so they can hire a pair of pre-equity stage school kids. Clever.
From £149.
Still not sure what the Pink Moon and the Raven are bringing to the table.
Fidelity. It's what we're famous for.
Dale offer a great deal on the new Polo or any other new VW or Audi.
And then this is the other big way around the equity thing. The Victor Kiam manoeuvre. Just get the actual businessmen working there to deliver the pitch for themselves, usually in excruciatingly stilted fashion. This happened a lot during the dispute. It might be its defining characteristic, in fact. It even made stars of a few of them, and this guy, hard as it might be to believe, was one of them.
Before you buy elsewhere, give me a ring at Dale, the Volkswagen Audi Dealer of the Year.
Just a nervous camp man with a lisp who comes across a bit like a medicated Frank Spencer, you might think. But the sight of someone this regular and ordinary, someone you could walk past in the street, fronting an advert for cars, was so novel at the time that the people of London actually took him to their hearts. A bit. He became a minor local celebrity and developed a shtick where he would parachute into the shot via green screen and say, "Drop in on Cody Dale." Sadly, I can't find any footage of that, but I'm assured that was his big gimmick. Even more sadly, Ray died in May of last year, but his obituaries made more papers than most car salesmen ever will.
Before you buy elsewhere, give me a ring at Dale, the Volkswagen Audi Dealer of the Year.
The other thing that made these nervous men into celebrities, apart from their adorable awkwardness and novelty value, is the fact that with the dispute and money being stretched and everything, there wasn't a huge amount of advertising to go around. So the same ads were repeated over and over, and also over and over again, to the point where it must have become quite maddening. There were 3 breaks during Scarface. The TDK one with the Pink Panther is on all of them. Richard Purdham's animation for Green King shows up twice, as does Fidelity in its Raven. And there's more from this guy.
Come to Colindale and find out what made us Volkswagen Audi Dealer of the Year. Before you buy any new VW or Audi, give me a ring at Colindale. We have a great deal to offer.
He's not quite the biggest star these restrictions created, mind. He got in on the ground floor within week 1, but before 1982 was out, this guy was ubiquitous, at least in the Thames LWT region.
Welcome to OTV House in Hackney. Know what's inside? The biggest choice of ex-rental colour TVs in the country. Come and take a look. People like shopping here because all my sets carry a 3-month written guarantee and prices start at only £55. Not only that, we offer low-cost maintenance contracts and you can pay by Access or Barclay card. So come along to OTV House and get yourself that second colour TV you always wanted.
Well, nothing special in form perhaps, but for a time, almost every single break on Channel 4 had his friendly nerd features show up for at least 10 seconds.
I'm selling these VHS video recorders from just £119. TV and video bargains for Christmas at OTV in Hackney, Stockwell and now at the Vale, Acton.
Every break, without fail.
You're not going to believe this. Buy a superb colour TV from only £65 and I'll give you another colour TV free. Buy one, get one free.
Carried on for 10 years or so as well.
Don't be the last one in your street to own a VHS recorder. OTV's got ex-rental Ferguson's at £199. Join the video set.
And then of course there's the option of using a celebrity endorsement, because they don't have to be members of Equity any more than Ray did, especially if they're sportsmen or women.
Boxing's a tough game for tough guys. That's why I chose a big razor.
Of course that also means they probably can't deliver a line into camera. Then again, this guy punches people for a living, so it might be wise to keep any criticism to yourself.
It gives me a shave that's really smooth and close. Get tough on your beard, get a bic.
That right there is the advertising equivalent of a 1940s Poverty Row Quickie B-movie. It does the job it's intended to do, albeit with brutal efficiency, and you can smell the pocket lint dislodged in the process of removing the handful of change it costs to make. I was going to say that all this didn't do much for Channel 4's image. But then I thought, what was that image? It was the underdog, wasn't it? The minority channel. And that was the whole basis of the dispute in the first place. The station that lifts the rock of the mainstream to expose the little crawling things underneath. Thanks to the penny-pinching IPA, that even stretched the advertising. Between the programmes on mainstream ITV at the time, they were showing the PG Tips Chimps, Morecambe and Wise advertising video games, We Hope It's Chips. All unavailable to Channel 4. Yes, even the chimps, they count as voice act, as distinct from out-of-vision narration. Go figure. Few of the big brands, and none of the big stars, except foreign ones, were visible on 4 between the programmes for almost a year. Which just made it seem even more like a strange, dreamlike hinterland, and contributed to the channel's outsider mystique. Lucky that was an image they wanted, really, because it was death to wannabe mainstream TV AM. But that's another story. You just sat through a Bob the Fish production. Nice! If you haven't already, you absolutely must check out bobthefish.org.uk. Literally hundreds more videos not unlike that one, adding up to days worth of entertainment and all absolutely free. But if you're not a cold-hearted skinflint, you can always support us on Patreon. For as little as anything at all, you can make programs like the one you just watched possible in the first place, and become eligible for bonus material such as glimpses of the book I'm writing about the BBC, monthly riffings on random commercial breaks, the complete archives of the angry political satire magazine Two Sons, and even the odd very occasional bonus video essay unavailable anywhere else. If nothing else, you should prevent me from starving and or freezing to death in the foreseeable future, so that'll be nice. No pressure or anything. Well, UK, you make it what it is.